What's up, guys? Back into the VR again, episode 3. Rex is just continuing to get the engine and everything back together. As you can see, we've got our O2 bungs welded into our collectors on the pipes, so that's ready for our Haltech dual channel wideband to go in. So that's pretty much where I'm up to, is actually starting to wire in these extra things we've got to get in there. So the Haltech combined, well, it's actually a Bosch combined pressure temp sensor. So it's going to go just in here and just replace this oil pressure switch for the dash, because we don't really particularly need that anymore, and it's a perfect place to just chuck our new one in. Bob's your auntie. Which means I have to make a small sub loom to wire in these two sensors in this combined sensor back to the ECU. Now, I talked about how the IC7 is somewhat of a expansion module, which is really handy, but because of where the penetration is in the firewall, it's really no advantage for me to wire it to the dash when I've got to go past where the ECU sits anyway. So I may as well just wire that to the ECU. Now at this stage, because we're not sure whether the speedo not working on the cluster is an issue with the cluster or the actual speed signal end, we're going to leave the GPS speedo out of it just for now, just until we see. Because if it's actually just an issue with the cluster and the speed signal end at the gearbox is fine, well then the factory speed input will work on the ECU and we won't have to put the GPS one in. So we'll just wait and see what that is like. I had an issue with the IC7 in this thing. So the plan was, I'll just jump inside. So the plan was to actually use this Haltech mount for the dash and try and mount it somewhat. Move the steering wheel down, tilt it down. The plan was to, sorry guys, it's really hard to do with one hand. The plan was to mount it somewhere in like that. The problem is that there's nowhere really to secure that where you will still get tilt on the steering wheel. You pretty much have to have the steering wheel down the whole time. Not only will that be annoying to drive, but it also creates an issue where if this is about your head height, as you can see, most of the dash is covered by the steering wheel, so it doesn't really make much sense. It's not going to work. So I decided just to ditch that altogether. The dash actually fits really perfectly. There's like a little lip on the bottom there in front of that set button where the dash just fits and just sort of squishes just underneath there fine. You still get full range of tilt on the steering wheel when you get it up there properly. So that would work really well. And as you can see, you can actually see the dash with the steering wheel up. When the car got here, the steering wheel was all the way up, so I'm assuming that the owner drives in that position most of the time. So that would work really well. But the problem is we still need to secure it somehow. So that's why yesterday I tried to make these little L bracket mounts, because there are 2 screws that go up from the bottom that mount this fascia up. And I figured if we just had 2 L brackets, that would be all we need to secure it in there. However, the issue I had is that obviously these have to mount to the dash from the back. And then you've got screws that go up behind them. It just makes it freaking impossible to try and work with. Honestly, it's so hard to work with it. At this stage, I'm not going to spend too much time on that right now. I feel like it's just a waste of time. At the moment, I just want to get the ECU in, get the wiring done. The dash can literally just sit here for now, for all it matters. I can worry about mounting it later on. But we really want to get this thing started today to run in the cam. So the factory ECU position on these things is down there in the passenger side kick panel, as you can see. Quite easy to get at. That's a standard ECU there I've got to pull out, and the penetration for the wiring is just above it in the firewall, which just comes out just behind the shock tower on the passenger side. So there's our wiring penetration. There's a fair bit of room there, which I'm hoping we should be able to utilize and should be able to make this fairly neat. So guys, we've got our Platinum Sport plug-in here for the GM, which is awesome. As you can see, you've got your main plugs on the front there. On the back, you've got a few different ports. Now, this port over here is the actual CAN port. So the old Platinums, they're not just a DTM4 or DT4 or whatever the new ones are. They were a little bit different. However, they do come with a little patch which just adapts that straight to DTM4. So that goes straight into there, and then we have a CAN cord from there straight out to our wideband 2 expansion. So our dual channel wideband, the actual unit will mount in the bay. Reason being is that these extension leads for the actual wideband sensors, they're a lot bulkier, a lot harder to get through the penetration than the little DD4 CAN leads. Now, lucky for us, the IC7 dash comes with a CAN lead that is plenty long enough to go from where it's going to be situated in front of the cluster, all the way to this side of the car where the ECU is, and out of the penetration to this. So we'll go out of the ECU into this, and then from this back into the dash. Other port here on the back of the ECU is actually for your little auxiliary harness. They actually supply the plug to make your little auxiliary harness and pins. And this here is our new combined oil pressure temperature sender, and the plug supplied for that. So all I've got to do is use these 2 things, some good TFX wire that we've got, and some braid to make a little patch loom for that sensor. That'll run in through the penetration as well. Easy done. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Alrighty, so I had an almighty time trying to get this out yesterday from this side, only to realise that it's actually pronged, and if you can get inside, from inside and push these in, it actually all comes out fairly easily. And aside from these two ECU plugs, there's just this other one plug that's plugged into something in there, which we just unplug and the whole thing comes out. So this makes it real easy for us to actually drill holes and get our penetration through, because it does have to be quite a significantly sized hole to get these DTM4 through, so not exactly small, so that makes it a lot easier to work around. Righto guys, we're having a delightful Sunday today, drilling the hole for these in this penetration, in this grommet, and the drill just picked up a wire, just a couple of strands of copper came out, so had to pull all this back, undo it all and fix the wiring there. That was real fun. And then to get these through, I actually still had to de-pin them anyway. They didn't actually go through with the plugs, which I expected, so I had to de-pin to get them through anyway. That's on the way, it's all sorted now. And while I was having fun doing that, Rex was putting the Gilmer drive, so this thing runs an Aeroflow Gilmer drive for the alternator, I think. And Rex was actually putting the Gilmer drive, and one of these bolts seized in our brand new balancer and snapped off, which was heaps fun. So luckily enough, we did get that out. Rex had to assist with a few things. We tried a few things and it kept snapping the bolt further and further down till there was hardly anything left, and we ended up being able to just drill it out and run a tap through it as a last resort, which did work, which is good. So we didn't have to buy a new balancer to replace our brand new balancer. Anyway, absolute piss off. But anyway, you get that. Both things sorted now, we're back on our way. Alrighty, so here is our little accessories loom. As you can see, use good TFX wire, pin them into the ECU side, and then we use some nice heat resistant braid with some good, I can't remember what they call it, it's a chemical resistant heat shrink. Same sort of stuff you use in fuel tanks and stuff. But I've just left, was it? DR25. And then, so that's that. And just left the other end unterminated for now so that I can get it through the grommet. Righto, boys and girls, moving along. So one of the things with the wideband 2, the WB2 from Haltech, is that the wideband sensors actually draw up to 3 amps per sensor on a cold start. So they actually tell you you shouldn't use the actual power by CAN over the ECU because it may overload that power driver. The power driver from the ECU that uses the CAN network, or however that works, obviously is not rated for that sort of amperage. So they give you this little jumper piece which goes in the middle, and all I've done here is hijacked the ignition feed for the ECU and picked an earth for the ECU, and this is how they tell you to wire it when you're wiring it into a car that has an Elite that's a wiring setup. So I figured that this would be just as good in a factory setup, should do the same job. What we're using here for joins are open barrel crimps, and these are just the strongest and best way to crimp wires in a car. You know, solder can go brittle and crack with vibration, things like that. It's not exactly the best thing to do. Open barrel crimps are definitely the best way to go about it. This is what they look like, and crimped properly, you will break the wire strands trying to pull one of these apart. You will not be able to pull the wires apart if this is done right. So super reliable, super easy, simple. This is the crimper. No excuse for doing terrible wiring in cars. Anyway, I'll just clean this up a bit and then we're ready to get the ECU in here. So there you have it guys, it's as simple as that. Factory plugs. We've got here our CAN network, and we've got our little accessories loom, which is our oil temp and pressure sensor. And these GM cars already run an external map sensor, so we don't actually need to run a vacuum line to the ECU, and it means that it frees this port up to be barometric corrections as well. So that's always nice. So that's how it is. It will fit nicely up in the kick panel when we're done, but obviously until we know everything's right and everything's running, we leave it nice and accessible. And the USB cable has been run up behind the dash into the glove box for easy access. Happy days. So you can see down there that penetration actually ended up being really neat and tidy, and that whole grommet all went back in nice and neat, and it's pretty well sealed too. So that's where our two CAN and our accessories harness comes out. So this is our wideband setup. It's just going to be pretty much tied in up here. Got wideband 1 to driver side bank, wideband 2 is the passenger side bank. Those are run down there, I just got to put the sensors in. And this is our accessories harness, which runs along with the factory harness. I'll tie it all in together down underneath the alternator there into our new sensor. You can see Rex has been busy doing lots, looking good. All right guys, we're up and running. Look at that, IC7 doing all the data stuff, how cool. Weird issue, the USB that Haltech supplied with the IC7, which is meant to have this software for the IC7 on it, is literally just completely empty. There's nothing on the USB. So I don't have the software on the USB to download to the computer to start having a play around with the IC7, and because we have no internet here at the moment, I cannot download it offline. So we're at a bit of a stalemate there. The other thing is I need to confirm injector data and a few other things for the 5 litre here, which once again, without any internet, I can't do right now. One of the many very frustrating drawbacks with this place is the internet. But anyway, you get that. So I'll take that computer home with us tonight. I'll make sure I have that software on it. Download that tonight and sort out all the injector data and the other data and a few other things. Anywho, a few other things to finalise with this and get some fluids in it and stuff, which we'll probably sort out tomorrow now, and we'll have all that software and everything ready to go for tomorrow and get this cam running. Alright, Rex did pretty bang on with this fitment for these O2 bungs. Got bank 1 there, and bank 2. Happy days. Quick oil change. Got some premium mineral with no friction additives to go back in. We're running in this cam, very important when you're running in flat tappet cams, not to have any sort of friction modifiers in the oil. Let's fill her up with some water. Just tidied all this stuff up, it's all come up pretty good. Got everything up there along the firewall out of the way. Happy days. Rex also replaced like quite a lot of these vac lines along the way, because a lot of them were pretty sad. Things like this, they were just brittle, breaking, not very good. So replaced a lot of those things along the way as well. Keep it nice and fresh. Righto guys, successful cam run-in. The base map in the Haltech was super close. All we did was pretty much enable the wideband trims and just let it do its thing. But it was all pretty close, pretty awesome. Started right up, once we set the timing obviously. We didn't play with the timing too much. Obviously being a flat tappet cam, it's very important to get these things running and up to RPM ASAP. Otherwise you risk wiping cam lobes and stuff like that. So we just got the timing fairly close just with the distributor cap, or the distributor. And now that the cam's running and it's not so important, we'll mess around and make sure that we set the timing properly. Thing sounds awesome, absolutely stoked with it. Everything's working as it should. So we'll wait for it to cool down, change the oil, lock the distributor, double check the timing, and then we'll be ready to hit the dyno. One of the big reasons we went with the Haltech for this particular project is that this bloke's pretty keen on nitrous. So obviously with the Haltech, we can have inputs to arm nitrous and have ignition corrections and things like that. So it's gonna be awesome to do that eventually. For now, we're just worried about it getting it sorted the way it is, but I think in future we'll hopefully see this thing back in for a few more spicy things. Heads, intake manifold, nitrous potentially, I'm not sure. We'll have to see how it goes. Obviously being still just a T5, you can't go too crazy with these things. The T5s aren't the strongest gearbox around by today's standards by any means, so we'll just see how it goes. Did also confirm that the ECU is getting a speed pulse from somewhere. It's not calibrated right. I think I'm gonna have to get it on the dyno and actually calibrate it on the dyno so we know what's going on. We should be able to just run it up to 100k an hour and look at the raw pulse value and input that into the calibration, and hopefully that'll work. So either way, it looks like we may not need the GPS speedo, which saves them a little bit of money. So we'll just wait until we get it on the dyno and see there. But Anyway, I think that's going to be enough for this episode. Sorry you didn't get to see any results this particular episode, guys, but I am trying to keep these ones fairly short and sweet for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Look forward to the next one. We'll see some results on the big dyno, the big girl, and see what she actually pumps out with a little cam and some decent tuning equipment and a good tune. Excited to see how it goes. Smash like, smash subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.